will be very important. There are classic patterns that I definitely want to use for our UI. And if someone is trying to delete something, we'll pop up a message box which
Mm-hmm.
says, okay, are you sure you want to delete? Enter the name here and confirm, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So we'll need. I mean, so that's more on one end. But even just warning the user, saying the action that they are going to take can have a certain implication, and even sometimes if you're building this, an ability to interrupt in between things. There are certain things that we need to start from the beginning and also continue making improvements. But on a side note, was Grafana? I thought Grafana also provided a JSON for the dashboard, so you could not just open the
Yeah.
JSON in a text box and then or in a text editor and then just delete that part. It's
Hmm.
not possible to do that.
Let me check, but I'm not sure that it's possible.
Uh,
Let me see.
Because the one another thing I would have thought is if you cannot bring the dashboard up because it takes too much time to load data and analyze it, etc., etc. You could just the JSON file for the dashboard and then remove that
Hmm.
part where you have that widget, that particular graph or that particular widget, which builds the heat
Yes,
map. Then it would
actually,
load.
you're right. Yeah, you are right. I just found where you can do it. Yeah.
Hmm. So yeah, but that just tells me that it's not that easy or it's not very apparent. So okay, that's good to know. We'll have to be thoughtful about it. So great.
And also, when you edit your dashboard, it automatically saves a history of your dashboard.
Mm.
So you can, I think I don't have a lot of changes here, but
Mm.
I think you can revert back to previous version of dashboard. Actually,
Okay.
I just found out this feature. I didn't see it before.
Mm. All right. Cool. Uh, okay. So you are going to put some dashboard screenshots, maybe just simple system metrics and something like that. So it just shows. You'll put those up on
Mm-hmm.
the shared drive. Okay. Uh, all right, Vlad. I saw you had responded to few emails. Unfortunately, I have not seen all the comments, but are we comfortable in moving and finishing up some of the stuff? Was there anything special that you needed me to look at?
Well, actually, I saw your comments and I am updating screenshots according to it. Well, right now I don't have any questions right now.
Okay.
And
All
I'm
right.
planning to finish right after our call.
Okay. All right. Okay. So if you can finish, the remaining ones, that will be great. Just to share with you, I don't have the wireframe, but uh, we're leaning towards our metrics screen to be more visual, and it will be largely be the chart or the graph, and then around the chart and graph you would have in fact a lot more functionality than Datadog or Signal FX or anyone. You will be able to see the monitors which are enabled, the alerts which are there, things like that, but also do the stuff that Datadog, for example, provides in other places, like ability to overlay transforms, like anomalies or outliers, etc. So that's where we are leaning more. I'm planning to have that aspect nailed down tomorrow from that meeting, and hopefully I'll start building the screen tomorrow, so you will see that wireframe very soon. Just FYI, just sharing that with you. If if we are done or we complete this rest of the screenshots, etc., I would say one thing we should start doing is I think we should start coding and maybe some kind of a foundational screen or something. So that just some, I don't know, a simple pick something, maybe a login screen or some page, maybe 1 or 2 page, which sets up, which erects basically the set of console or the first couple of screens for us, because that's where I think we will head to next. So that makes sense, Dennis. But to do that, what you will need to do is we will need to have a GitHub repo. We'll need to put in some code. We'll need to push it through Spinnaker. I mean, we don't have Spinnaker and everything set up yet, right?
Yeah. Well, Charles said that first we need to set up building process, and sometime later we'll add this project to continuous delivery pipeline.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to okay. Unfortunately, it's a little bit okay. I'll try to find out with Willy Hatanu, who's the ops manager, the SRE for us.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to find out where he is on setting up the Spinnaker and all that infrastructure, so we can start building. But maybe we can start. Looking to set up a baseline structure or a foundation, get the libraries, everything set up, start a GitHub repo around it. Once we finish all the screens for today. Make sense?
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. That is all from my end. If there is anything, Vlad, Yevgeny, Ivan, Dennis, Anna, if there's anything that you can think of or remember, something that stands out, do put that in the notes or send me an email. All these things really make a big difference. Just for us understanding Grafana, you can edit the JSON if you go directly, but it's not that apparent even for an experienced person or an experienced programmer. Or SolarWinds is too simplistic, even, and it has lot more notification, lot more ways to get notified, but lot fewer ways on which it will notify or on which will trigger. But it's keeping things simple. Things like this will help us, because as we are considering or looking at our product, we can think about the mental model for the users. So, if you even today, as you see stuff, start putting it into the notes or send me an email. So, okay.
Okay, gotcha.
All right.
Just you can see the summary file in the, for example, SolarWinds folder, and there is notes. You can see.
Yeah. No, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. So thanks for that. But I was saying, in case if something else also comes up, put it into the summary note or send me an email, because we have the meeting tomorrow morning. That's why I was saying sending me an email also. But in general, as a good practice, I want us to document this and put it into the summary note, so then it is captured. But just for tomorrow, do it twice. Do it in summary, send me an email. So.
Okay.
All right, perfect. Thanks, guys. Anything else? Anna, the question for the roles, etc., was that clear?
Thank you, Alex. From customer side, I understand, but I don't understand roles in the shoreline.
Okay, so there are two ways to think about roles. The name roles typically in our mind comes in saying, "Oh, are you a manager?" Or that's more kind of a user persona per se. The way and the roles that I'm talking about is more the classic AWS roles, which is nothing but a collection of permissions. And you assume a role, you can create a bucket in S3. You can create an EC2 instance, but you cannot delete an EC2 instance. You can update the configuration of certain things. So what I was saying was, in our mindset or in our mental model, the role is not of a user persona, but more of a collection of permissions. That collection of permissions will translate into a user persona. So in essence, I might say that a manager should only have read permission to certain dashboards, but should not be modifying a monitor. If you create a monitor which alerts on something, the only person who should be able to do it is the SRE, the site reliability engineer, or the DevOps engineer who created that monitor, or someone in his or her team, or the manager, the SRE manager, or someone in that direct line. But if there is a marketing manager or someone who has access to it, they should not be able to change or modify a monitor. So the roles that you are talking about will translate into the set of permissions or roles that I am talking about. And we will, out of the box, start with certain roles. And then users can customize it. So we can say, fine, there will be like a read access, or a read only role, or a write only, or read and write role, or limited read role, no delete role, things like that. We can start out of the box, and then our customers will be able to pick and choose whatever it is. So just to give you an example, I made everyone the admin in AWS. So you have the freedom to, everyone can create or delete instances and things like that. We might not allow that out of the box for everyone in Shoreline. You might say, oh, well, if Anna comes in, she can only play in the dashboard part because she's a data analyst. Anna the data analyst, not Anna the business analyst. I'm just kidding. But if someone comes in, they can only do this because that's their function. That's how they do things. But someone else can only do X, not Y.
Can you explain? Do you have a special interface for your engineers as a Shoreline engineers? When customer write a letter to support, something goes wrong, who will be in the charge of this ticket letter?
Okay. Yeah. So the way it all comes together is typically in this monitoring systems, you set up a monitor or an alert. When an alarm goes off, goes on, it notifies. So it will either send an email or an SMS or something. That typically is sent to like a on-call, on-call pager. So there is a connection there which says on-call pager. So send a notification to on-call pager, and we could be rotating. So Monday it might be I am on call, Tuesday Vlad, Wednesday you might be. So whoever it is, depending on an on-call schedule, they get paged. Once they get paged, they check in to the ticket and they assign the ticket to themselves. So initially the state would say for that, because the ticket gets automatically created, alarm goes on, a page is sent or a notification is sent, a ticket is created, and a ticket is initially assigned to on-call primary, and then the primary will come in and say assign to Alai, or they might keep it as on-call primary if it is a fast rotation thing. So whoever is the on-call primary is responsible for that, and they will start working on it.
Will you create a special interface for engineers?
This would not require a special interface for engineers. It's basically, people will have view permissions or even write permissions. So let's say if a ticket, there is some functionality. Let's just take our example. We are building a screen and one of the monitor is not being created. Somehow people are getting 400 error or 500 error because there is something wrong in the code. monitor fires off saying there are too many 500 errors for this feature, and one of us gets scared. And let's say, I'm not saying that Asperity will be carrying a pager, but let's say Dennis is the on-call primary. So then Dennis gets a page saying there is a problem, here's the ticket which is assigned to it. Dennis clicks on it, comes to the page and starts working on it. It maybe pulls up a graph or a chart and sees, okay, what's really happening, where is it happening. I also see that there are some pages going on for my team, so I log in also to the ticket and I can view the ticket also. And I remember that, hey, wait a second, I think Vlad was working on the code for this last week. And so I might ping Vlad and say, hey, take a look into this. Is this something related to what you're saying? So different people with different roles will have access to the ticket. Charles, who runs the backend team, just as I run the front end team, Charles runs the backend team. I might not give full access to Charles on the front end team. Or let's say I have a salesperson. Now, this ticket is for one of a very big customer, right? And so my salesperson will also be worried about it. So my salesperson will get a read-only access to the ticket. They would not get an ability to write something. By the way, in AWS, for example, you could also write stuff. You could actually be talking, like the salesperson could be talking to the customer, and they could basically also convey and relay a lot of information. So there are different ways as to how a company might structure who can do what. One extreme example, as I said, was AWS, where I could literally go in, except for highly secure tickets which were locked down. I could go in and write whatever I wanted to write and contribute to the ticket if I wanted to. But I know there is one potential customer that we are working with very closely, and the way they are set up is their developers cannot even see the ticket. They have a separate dev and a separate ops team. The developers cannot even see the ticket. It's a separate ticketing system. The developers can only see certain charts or graphs or things that are being shared by the ops team. So that is a very different model. So we will, by the way, that's where the roles and permissions will come in, saying, if a company wants a very clear separation and say nobody can see this except the ops team, they will be able to set up a role and permission like that. Or if a company says everybody can see it, they can set it up also like that. So we will provide the flexibility in our platform so that no matter what the business model is, our users should be able to use it.
Okay, I'll try to describe those and send you to read.
Yeah, so the best way to think about the rules will be, think about it as CRUD operations, create, CRUD, the classic CRUD, you delete. So you think about CRUD operations and you think about the core sets of functionality or how you create different. So for example, in ticketing, there is, charting, there is querying, there is view. So they're not just the CRUD operation, but also different aspects of it that you can do and not do. For example, you might say, well, you know what, in ticketing, I'm not going to allow just about anyone to change the status of the ticket. Because that's a significant enough piece. And you might say, okay, I'm going to bubble this up to have a separate permissioning capability. It's a very similar thing to how, like, for example, if you look at S3, Amazon S3 is the storage in the cloud. In S3, you can limit if someone can view an object or someone can even change the property of an object. So certain things they allow permissioning, certain things they don't allow permissioning. Not just not just simple CRUD, create object, delete object, but also modify properties, list objects in a bucket. That's an operation on a bucket. So Some of it will be more clear as we move forward, but some you can actually just, right now sit down and think about saying, of any, you pick and choose, let's say Datadog or anything. But if you think about saying, how would I think about from a metric perspective? Well, the classic CRUD, but then also maybe someone can, create a monitor out of this. So that's a permission model that I might want to enforce, things like that.
I tried yesterday, and
Yeah.
that's why I asked.
Yeah, no, makes sense. But if there are questions, ping me. It's not an easy or a trivial exercise, because you need to find the right balance between enough flexibility to have the right amount of control without being too complicated. If you try to open the floodgate, it becomes very complicated and not useful, because every small little thing can be controlled, but that means there is too much burden on the user. That is why I was very interested in Yevgeny's comment about SolarWinds and the simplicity of metrics in SolarWinds, because one of the things I do think that somewhere there is a balance that needs to be brought in. Probably Datadog and SignalFX have too many things. That is why I was pushing him to say, can you think of it? Does it make sense or not? Because so it's the same thing with the permissioning also. Tough challenge.
Okay, thank you.
These permissions can be mirrored from AWS users. For example, if you will allow single sign-on via AWS, or it will be completely separate bunch of permissions for a user.
Yeah, no, it will be different permissions for user, because there is a AWS level permissions, but that will be, on top of it is Shoreline. So in essence, Shoreline users will be setting or orchestrating the permissions for Shoreline functionality and features. That will translate into a lower level. So for example, imagine, actually most of the things people will not be able to just even go in. I haven't figured that out, or company hasn't figured it out, but imagine where we will not allow users to go into Shoreline's AWS account and change stuff at AWS level. No, we run on AWS, but for them it is a service at a UI level or at a CLI level. They can just operate against those two. So we build that capability of permissioning model across that layer.
Yeah, I think it's clear. Yeah. Okay, I don't have other questions.
All right. Any other questions, Tim?
I don't have.
Okay, then
All right.
see you tomorrow then.
See you tomorrow. Let me know how it goes setting up the thing. You have access to Circle CI and all that stuff? I think so. Check it out. So let me know where we start stalling in terms of, either creating the repo and putting in the code, or, putting in some build, getting the builds going, or deploying stuff. So then I can start working on those and clearing those gates with Willy tomorrow.
Okay. Well, actually, we discussed it with Charles. He said that we will use GitHub Actions, not Circle CI, for new application.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we are phasing out Circle CI. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay then.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.